Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carl's Conversations. This is the 2025 Spotlight on Black Excellence. In respect and honor of Black History Month, we want to take some time to shine the spotlight on Black excellence in areas of education, business, history, and community advocacy and engagement. And it is just an honor and a delight for me to show people, hopefully show the world what tremendous portions of excellence we have in the Black community. Now, to many of us, this is no surprise at all. But to some of you, you may be pleasantly surprised. You may see some faces and hear some names of people that you thought you knew. But I always tell people what we think we know and what we really know are often not the same story. And when you walk in humility, it's very easy to admit that. And even though I have worked with Elaine in the past, I'm sure that at the conclusion of this interview, I'm going to walk away knowing a bit more about her. She is truly a creative force here in the DMV region. For those of you who are not familiar with that, the DMV region is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. She's a creative force. She's well known. She's well respected. She is a playwright. She is a businesswoman. And let me tell you, I don't know how much of her story she's going to tell tonight, but if she just tells a little teeny bit of it, you're going to see how much of an overcomer she is. What a powerful, powerful woman of God. What a tremendous businesswoman. What a tremendous creative force. None other than Elaine Crocker. She is the owner and founder of Yet Stand Incorporated. She is the playwright and producer of Yet I Stand stage play, of which she deemed me worthy of having a spot in the play. It was one of the best experiences I've had on stage. And I'm so thankful that she said yes to my invitation to come on to be a part of the showcase of Black excellence. So I say welcome to you, Elaine, and thank you so much for saying yes to be a part of this.
Wow, thank you, Carl. Lovely introduction, and yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to this.
All right. So for people who don't know, I am Carl Armstrong, creator and host of Carl's Conversations. Our tagline is, "This is a safe place to have difficult conversations." You know, my personality has always been, I say things out loud that most people only say to themselves or say within groups, because I firmly believe that in all that get an understanding. We talk about stuff all the time, but until we speak to it and do something about it, then we don't have resolution. And many times it don't have resolution because it don't have understanding. And somebody has to be bold enough and honest enough to come and just tell the truth about things that most other people don't want to talk about. Thus was born Carl's Conversations. But in this particular series, we shine in the spotlight on Black excellence. And when we put the spotlight on these people that we have called in, they can talk about whatever they want to talk about. There are no holds barred. So we're putting the spotlight on this tremendous woman, and we're going to let her talk. So Elaine, I want to say once again, welcome. I guess I want to know, tell us about Yet Stand Incorporated, and tell us how out of that came the stage play, Yet I Stand.
Okay, let's see. So it actually happened the opposite. Yet Stand, the stage play, came into fruition 10 years ago. Actually, July of this year will make 10 years that we've been on stage. And yet I Stand is loosely based on my own personal experiences. I experienced the trauma of sexual assault within my home and outside of the home several times as a child. The shame, the guilt, and the weight of that, the silence of that, and I think silence is one of the reasons why we struggle so much. It's because it's something that we don't talk about. We oftentimes feel we can't talk about. Nobody understand. We'll be blamed. All those things, and so that led me down the road of drug addiction, which lasted about 10 to 15 years, and all the stuff that goes in with that. So a lot of people maybe don't really know about that lifestyle of drug addiction, but it's definitely it's devastating, it's degrading, it's all of those things, and it's not something that somebody goes into. I wasn't a little girl thinking, oh, when I grow up, this is this is what I want to do, and even while I'm doing it, it's not like this is really what I want, and this is really a place that I'm happy, and I would just want to live like this, and I just want to, that's not drug addiction. It
Mm,
usually stems. It's usually a symptom. A symptom of things, and so really for me, it was a symptom of just carrying the silence and the shame and the secrets of the abuse. Um, and along the road with my going into treatment, I went into drug rehab. I went to group homes. I started therapy and Narcotics Anonymous programs and all those things, to help get myself on the right track. And all in there, um, I believe that God was calling me out of that in order to give back.
mm.
In order to give back. So he rescued and he saved me out of that, and he led me down this road of, okay, you got help, and I had a lot of support, people, organizations, churches, just help from everywhere, and so the call was to, to give that back. And so the organization Yet Stand Inc. really was born out of that. Yeah.
So we understand the story about how your life produced the play. Now, Yet Stand Inc.
Hmm.
What does that company stand to do? We know that you run the stage play out of it, but what else
Hmm.
does Yet Stand Incorporated do?
Yeah, so Yet Stand Incorporated. So our primary focus is that we provide services to youth, women, and families that have endured traumatic experiences. Doesn't have to be like real major, but just have endured some trauma that they're struggling working through. And so, I'll give you an example of something that we do right now is we have an agreement with Stafford County Public Schools where we go into the school and we do workshops. And so it's for the youth. And so those workshops will be things like managing your emotions, how to manage your emotions, how to manage, know what your beliefs are and how your thinking is. And if it sends you in a negative way, let's reframe that so that you can go in a positive way. What are positive ways that you can do, if you're angry, if you're mad, if you're sad, if you're in trauma, whatever it is, there are positive ways of coping and of getting help and healing. And so that's what we go into the schools to do with the students. We also have opportunities to then train teachers and helping them to deal with these students that they're encountering that have all kinds of behaviors and things, and you can be very frustrating, can be difficult, and they may not understand what they're seeing, what they're hearing. And so we go in and try to help them figure out how to then talk to the kids and treat the children, and also how to take care of themselves in that. And so that's an example of some of the work that we do. We just got another agreement just today with Progressive Community Outreach, and we'll be involved in their after school program, and the same type of thing, providing coping skills to the students. And to help them, as there, because the goal is that you're going to go through, like, you're going to work, you're going to go to school, you're going to work, maybe get married, have kids, you have different relationships, all these things. How do you do that if mentally, emotionally, you're out of whack, so to speak? Because it doesn't have to be that you're mentally ill, that you
Mhm.
have bipolar, it doesn't have to be that, but you can be, I call it unrest. You have
Yes,
this
that's right.
unrest, right?
Mhm.
And so and that unrest can affect everything in your life. I know for me, it affected everything. I mean, I experienced homelessness, I experienced bankruptcy, I lost jobs, I mean, I lost relationships, And so our mental and our emotional well-being affects all aspects of our lives. And so it's just kind of teaching those, like I said, coping skills, and giving people that understanding. Because that's another thing. A lot of times when I didn't even understand what was going on, and I didn't have
Wow.
the language. I didn't have the language. Like, I never heard growing up. I didn't hear people talk about trauma
Mm.
or even stress or mental health. I mean, those, I didn't even know those words. I didn't even know that language. And so teaching that language, and so people can come to a better understanding of themselves and each other.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. We often hear this phrase, sometimes we get lemons, but you turn lemons into lemonade. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you did that with some very deep trauma
Yeah.
in your childhood. What was that fork in the road for you that helped you to take something that was so deeply traumatic and hurtful to help you turn it around to become such a powerful, positive force when it comes to helping people? Because many times hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you can think of people that they end up going to their grave still hurt and wounded,
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
having gotten over it, with a whole slew of people in the wake that they've hurt because of
Yeah.
their own hurt.
Yeah.
What was it that helped you to galvanize the strength
Mm-hmm.
and the continued strength? Because they can't just do it one time. Your continuing work with Yet Stand Incorporated is a testimony to your continued strength
Yeah.
and vigor to take what was so traumatic to do something that's so positive. How were you able to do that?
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting that you said that about hurting people, because, not only do we hurt other people, but we hurt ourselves. We probably do more damage to ourselves a lot of times than we do to anyone else. Um, but, I came to a place after, I don't know, I'll say probably closer to 15 years of addiction. And I came to a place where I really was literally kind of like, I describe it as I have one foot in the grave, and one foot over here, in life on earth. And it was, what are you going to do? I
Mm,
was in that place of, you're either you're going to die like this, or
mm,
you're going to end up maybe in prison. You're going to do something that you can't turn back from, like you're really going to hurt somebody, you know um and I was just at that place of, I didn't want to live like that anymore, but I didn't want to die like that. And I didn't even know why I thought, but I thought, I don't want to die, like I don't want that to be, the headstone, or do you know what I mean, for people? Though she
yes.
died in the streets, she died a crackhead, she died, what I didn't want. I didn't want that to be my story. That's the truth. I didn't
Mm,
want that to be my story. And, I figured, if God, for whatever reason, kept keeping me alive, because I have so many stories of where I could have been dead,
mm,
you know, God kept keeping me alive. And so it was, what are you going to do? What are you going
mm.
to do? Yeah. And, gratefully, some people came along, that one of the first things that happened is somebody gave me a Bible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's one of the first things that happened. Someone gave me a Bible, and I'm looking at this Bible and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? I don't understand. I don't understand this language, because I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten all the way through high school. I was in Catholic school. I went to Catholic church, all those things, but I didn't have a clear understanding of what was being taught, what was being said. I really didn't. And for me, it was, the message that I got. It was, you are so bad, you
Mm,
are too bad, and God is not going. You're going to hell. God can't love you. Because you're just too bad. That was
mm,
kind of the messaging that I got. And so, and I had tried reading the Bible, and again, I didn't understand. I didn't understand. It was like a foreign language. I didn't understand what it was talking about, and certainly didn't understand what it had to do with me in this
mm,
day, in this day and age. So it was like a story. I would read it like, oh, it's a story. But anyway, so yeah, so someone put a Bible in my hand and said, why don't you read this? And I looked at it for a while. I put it down. And then finally, I don't know, just finally one day I picked it up and I started reading. And not only was I reading, I was understanding. I don't know where but I was understanding, and I could look at these scriptures and Psalms specifically, because there's something about Psalms and that crying out and that being able to really talk to God and question God, and that that's how I saw the Psalms, and I was able to relate and just understand, and I just had that, I call it encounter, if you
Yeah.
will, an encounter with God. It was me and God, and I had that Bible, and I just knew that God was like with me at all times. I just knew it. It was strange the way that it happened, but that's how it happened. And even people that I was around, they would see me and that, like, who are you? Like, what's going on? They didn't know if I had lost my mind and turned into a religious fanatic, or exactly what. But there were even some who said to me, I'll never forget the day that this lady said to me, she said, like, what is that light? And I'm like, this, she said, there's a light over you, over your head. And I said, a light? And she said, yeah. She said, there's a light. She said, I see it. And she said, how is it that with everything that you've been through and going through, that you have so much peace? And all I could say was God.
Mm.
God.
Oh,
And
wow.
I started, showing people the Bible and showing people the word, and that was kind of, from that was the start of it. And then from there, I found out about rehab and Narcotics Anonymous, and that there was help, basically, and that
Mm.
there were resources that I could tap into. And so I just kind of began to just kind of take those different steps. I went into rehab for 3 months, lockdown and rehab, 3 months. I came out of there. I went right into a group home, and I was in that group home for a couple of years. And I was entrenched in the Narcotics Anonymous program for years. Um, yeah, and
I
eventually,
never knew that part. So it was really a process. Let me ask you this.
mm,
After all of those years of living a life of being hurt and living the life of addiction, how did a sober mind change your your perspective in life? I guess you got to throw into not just a sober mind, but by this time now you're reading scripture, so you have a sober mind and a mind that's been exposed to the word. How was
mhm.
that now affecting your perspective on things?
So what was happening is that I was beginning to learn more about me. I was beginning to understand how to tap into my emotions. Um, I was beginning to learn what God thought of me and what God felt about me and what God said about me. And I began to just believing that, even though I may not have really thought those things about myself the way that God did, I just started just kind of believing that, okay, well, God says I'm this, okay, you know. And people, would talk to me, and they would tell me what they saw in me and what they thought of me, and I'm like, okay. Okay, I would just believe, okay, you know. And that's just what, believe, or what is that, fake it till you make it kind of thing,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know. And until I really did believe, like I really did feel it, um yeah, it was
That that is
and
that is amazing. Let me ask you this: when it comes to your business, Yet Stand Incorporated, are you one of these people who maybe took some business classes or set up under somebody, or did you just say, you know what, I'm just gonna do it and I'm gonna learn as I go?
it's a mixture of that.
Mm.
So my the thinking of starting a nonprofit started years ago. Now I didn't start Yet Stand until 2022, so it's just 3 years old. But the thought of a nonprofit started years ago. Years ago, I started with the thought, that that was something that I wanted to do. And that came out of one, going to church. But it also came out of, I actually met one of our pastors in church. He had his own ministry, and I started volunteering with his ministry. And I saw the work that he was doing. I was fascinated. I was just fascinated how people, how they were able to talk to people, how they were able to, bring people to Christ, and just all the things that they were doing. I was fascinated, and I just had the thought, I want to do that one day. That was it. I want to do that one day.
Wow.
And so as the years went on, different things that I would do, like I worked in a group home for women, and I was a case manager, and so I worked with those women, and I did prison ministry, and there were these different things that I did that kind of that were learned, that were stepping stones, that I was learning so much along the way. And even in my job that I do, I've always, when I was able to work, even when I was younger, I always worked in a corporate office administrative type of role. And so I had those skills to just that administrative, that office, kind of mind, and so putting all of that together. But there was one thing that was holding me back, and that was I saw God leading me into my ministry, and Yet Stand Inc., even though it is a nonprofit 501c3, it is a business. Ask the IRS, it is a business.
That's
but
right.
but for me and my heart, it's a ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And what was holding me back, though, was that I saw God leading me into, your ministry is going to be your story. You're going to have to talk about it. You're going to have to help it. And I was kind of like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about it all the time. I don't want to, who cares really? Nobody wants to hear that. I don't want it now. And so that held me back for years, is that I just kept saying no.
And you finally said yes.
I finally said yes, because, as we know, God does not change his mind. And, but I had to go through the process over the years, like I said, the different jobs and the different ministries and the different things that I did. And then one day I heard him so loud and clear. He was like, now. And that was in 2022. He said, now. And that was it. I did what I had to do. Carl, I have no idea. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, even with the play, I didn't know anything about how do you start a nonprofit. I really didn't know. And I had like I said, I had learned some things along the way, but to actually do it, and I had to learn, and it was like I was being led all the different places that I needed to go to get information. The resources and all that I needed were just, and we talk about the internet, and we talk about, the evil that exists in the internet, and that is true, but there's also a lot of good. And I'll tell you, Mr. Google has been a friend of mine. Has been a friend of mine for years. Everything, if I don't know something, I go right there and I'm able to find what it is that I need. And I tell you, I started a nonprofit with Google. What do you do? How do you do? What are the paperwork? What do you, the same thing with the play. How do you write a play? How do you write a script? How do you set it up? Where do you find I went on to the internet, and I was able to find everything that I needed to do all that I needed to do.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm still learning, I tell my board that all the time, like, I'm still learning, I don't know it all, I learn something new all the time,
But you know what? That's what's amazing to me, and even as we do this spotlight, tonight we're catching a snapshot, right? A snapshot of where you are today. You're telling us a story, but we're catching a snapshot of where you are today. But the amazing thing is, everything that you're able to pour out to us and teach us, to think that you're still learning, isn't that an amazing thing? Because some will look at you and think, oh my God, if I could to be half of where she is. But you're thinking to yourself, girl, if you knew.
If you knew, it's true. Yeah, I learned something else all the time. And just the other day, I said we were having our board meeting, and we were going through something, and I said, I just was like, thank you for, for bearing with me and for showing me grace, because there are some things that we're doing now that we should have done, some months ago, and I didn't realize. But when I learned, oh, you should be doing this. You should have this in place. You should be doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, here, I know it's a year later, but here, this is, we need to do this.
I want to
Yeah.
ask a very pointed question, and I don't want this to seem like I'm using this as a crutch, but it's important. This is Black History Month, and we're shining a spotlight on Black excellence. You've told us a great portion of your story. There have been a lot of titles that we can give you based on the information that you've given us. But one of those titles is you're a Black woman in America.
Mm.
What role has that played in what you've been through, what you're doing, what you're trying to do? And has it at any point been a hindrance to where you've had to fight a little harder? Or as you're helping people in your ministry now, do you have a special sense or a special attraction towards other Black women because you understand the struggle? I hope my question makes sense.
Yeah. Well, one, if you saw my board, then you would know, because my board is all it's all Black women. But I would say, have I fought hard? I would say that I know, just innately know, that when I show up, or when we show up, we have to show up in excellence. I just know that. Like, I know that there, some other cultures, let's say, or ethnicities could maybe show up and not and say, this is what we do, and people would be like, oh, okay, well, come on board. But I know that for us, we have to come, like I said, in excellence. And so one of the things that I worked really, really hard at, and like I said, we started in 2022, but it really has been in the last year that I came to understand that, you are gonna, Yet Stand is gonna have to show up a little different. So Yet Stand is gonna have to show up with, listen, we're going to have the training, we're going to have the credentials, we're going to have the educate, we're going to have all the stuff, so that they can't, I mean, why would you say no? Do you know what I mean? Like, and that has been really important to me. Like, I really came to understand that, yeah, you all have to come, you have to come different, you have to come stronger, so that, like I said, so that when you're saying to someone, to an organization, this is what we do, they can look at our website and say, oh yeah, these people, they are legit, they're legit. Yeah.
I think I'm so glad you said that. I think that there are some outside of our culture who, when they hear the DEI, and you look at some of these comments, they don't understand it, or they hear affirmative action, they think that that's something as a crutch for us, and they really don't understand that for the vast majority of our households, even the households that come out of abject poverty, we have been pushed by our own people, our own parents, our own family elders to be excellent. And that's why I'm using that word in this year's showcase. We're showcasing, I originally thought of it as the Black Business Showcase. That's what I've been calling it. But as you and I were talking before we came on camera, there's something amiss here, right?
Yeah.
And I want to use that word excellence.
Yeah.
And we have always been pushed towards excellence. And I just want you to speak to that. You hit on it, but we've always been pushed to excellence. Average and good enough, that was never what we were taught. Oh no.
One of the things I think about when I was younger and going to school and that kind of thing, and it really used to kind of bother me, because people would say things to me, especially our people, but people in general would say, oh, you don't act, let's say, Black, if you will. You don't sound Black, kind of thing. And I used to get so irritated by that, because to me, it is, what is that? Like, what is it to act black? What is it to
Mhm.
sound like? What are you saying? And so it's all, even from young, I was like that. And I remember my mom that unfortunately, and she came from a time where how do I want to say it? She thought very highly of other cultures,
Mhm. Mhm. I
and
get it.
that they were superior in a sense. And, so when I had friends who were of other ethnicities, I even had boyfriends who were of other, that she thought, that was just the greatest thing. And I don't know, there was that put something in me where it was like, I no, I am good enough in the skin that I'm in the color that I'm in. And maybe, yeah, I have to work a little harder, for you to see that, but you're going to see that.
Mhm.
Like, that's just my, I'm not, yeah, this is how I'm showing up, and so that's always kind of just been important to me, to not shrink and to not fall into that, because I'm black I can't, that kind of thing. I don't believe that I can, right? I can do whatever it is that I'm called to do in life, in this skin that I'm in, and I can do it in excellence.
My son asked me a question during the protest when the George Floyd thing had got to its height. And, he was really moved by all of that. He looked at me, he says, Dad, why didn't your generation fix this? Why did you guys
Mm,
leave it to us?
wow.
That thing really pricked me. And what I told him was, I said, son, that's not a real easy answer, but let me just give you what I can. I told him, for us, remember, being raised in Southern Virginia, I was one of the first few desegregated classes,
Hmm.
you know. So when I entered elementary school, we were only a few years into desegregation, even though our parents taught us to lift our head up and walk with a sense of pride and dignity,
Yeah.
not haughtiness, but self-confidence. You know what I mean? And,
Hmm.
and and don't let people sun you to make you
Yeah.
think that being black was something to be ashamed of. No, 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 not at all. So, but for us to be able to assimilate enough to have some success.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I'm going somewhere with this. I remember asking my mom, I said, Mama, why were you so hard on me and my brother, but you seem to be a little softer when the girls came along? And her answer was, she said, I was raising two black boys in racist Chesapeake, Virginia. She
Mm.
said, I had to make y'all think that I would almost kill you. She said, because I knew that if you got into the hands of the racist
Ooh.
cops acting a fool, that they would kill you.
Hmm.
So my goal was to keep you out of their hands by making you think that I would kill you if you act up.
Yeah.
So you think about that kind of pressure. And I looked at my mama, I almost bust out crying like, Mama, it was really like that. She said, yeah, boy, it
Hmm.
was really like that. So we've come so far.
Yeah.
And so this tag about black excellence,
Hmm.
this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to pull as many of y'all on as possible. And I have the sneaky suspicion that this is gonna go way beyond February.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. But that is, you raised a good point, is that it is a process. It is a process, and we have progressed.
Yes.
And we're going to continue to progress. And so for me, one of the ways that I am, I hope, helping to see progress in our future, in our youth that are coming up and that are going to be our future mothers and fathers, etc., is everything that I've learned along the way is that I give them that information.
Mm,
I give them that information, and they take that information into their lives, and hopefully it's information that not only will help them, but it will help their children and their children's children and their children's children. That's how it works. As it's like, better, you do better. And so I think that our parents definitely did the best that they could with what they knew in that time. I believe that we as parents, myself, you, have done the best that we, could do with our children, with what we knew and what we've learned and what, and as you keep again, as you keep learning, you just keep passing that information along, so that each generation, does better. We're certainly doing better than our parents did, for sure. We
Oh,
have it better
absolutely.
than we have it better than they did, you know. And that's what I want for my kids and for the kids, coming up, that we're going into the schools, now with, is that they're better, and their life is better. And that's what we hope for.
I told my son, I told him, I said, believe me, the atmosphere is now better for
Yeah,
your generation to do some things that would have been quite dicey
for
for us to
sure.
do.
For
You know what I mean?
sure. For
It was
sure.
it was for real life and death for us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, I just think about how the voice, that not just my child and our child, but the ones coming up now, the voice that they have. I mean, I can remember feeling like I didn't have a voice. I couldn't speak. I couldn't question. I couldn't even, maybe not argue, but I just I couldn't have opinions. And you just look at that now, like the voice that they have is tremendous. That you have your voice, that's tremendous.
Wow.
And so yeah.
Elaine, we're gonna begin to wrap up here. This has been so good. I could talk to you all night. I want to know, with all that you've gathered up to this point in life, if you were talking to that 10-year-old Elaine, knowing what you know now, if you could encourage her, the 15-year-old Elaine, the 25-year-old Elaine, the 30-year-old Elaine, at these different stages in your life, and then to extend that for the young girls and the young adult women, especially for everybody now, but especially those women. I know you deal with a lot of women's issues
Hmm.
who are going to look at this interview and try to glean something so they can go forward. What would you tell them to encourage them to just reach for the stars and to let them know that they're probably worth way more than what maybe people have told them that they are?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know for me, what I wish I had known is, I wish that I had known that I have a purpose and that there is a purpose for my life. And even in the bad, even in the adversities, that I have purpose, right? I would say to anyone to really go inside and get to know yourself and to pull on those things. What do you like? What are you passionate about? What do you think about doing? And staying on that road. If you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting anybody else, stay on that road because your purpose is in that. We were born with purpose. We were born with calling, and vision for our lives. So figure out what that is, and stay on that path. Now that doesn't mean you're going to do it perfectly. That doesn't mean you won't go left or right sometimes, but to keep in the forefront. And that's one of the things that I had to do with even getting clean, getting off of drugs. I had to have a vision. I had to see that there was something better, that there was something
Mm.
better, and there was something that was for me to do in this world, in this life, and to stay focused, on that. As long as you're alive, stay focused on that, and don't let anything or anybody deter you, from the vision and from the calling that you have for your life, and that God has for your life.
This is awesome. I thank you so much for pouring out. I want you to tell the audience how they can find you at the various places of social media. I'm going to put some information up on the screen so that if they want to make a donation, and listen, let me tell y'all something. When you run an organization, especially a nonprofit, listen,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
takes it takes a lot of resources,
yeah,
but one of those resources is finances.
for sure,
And
for
so
sure.
I know Elaine, I know the type of work that she does, and there's a whole lot of stuff she ain't told you about. All right. And not because she's keeping secrets per se. She's modest. There's a lot of things that go on behind closed doors, and your monetary gifts would be very helpful. Some of you have a skill set
Mm-hmm.
that may be very, very useful for the great work that she's doing in the community. For all of you writers and actors and all that, I'm telling you, I've been a part of Yet I Stand stage play. What a tremendous blessing. I had a ball. And let me tell you, if she ever called me for anything else she's doing, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And so
Yeah.
if you don't mind, Elaine, if you could tell the people how they can reach you.
Okay. All right. So our website is yetstand.org. Our phone number is 571-393-1693. And for donations, we have Cash App, and that is, I always say $. I know they call it something else, but I just say $. $, Yet Stand Inc. And certainly, we look for volunteers. We look for certainly people who are passionate about speaking into the lives of others, children, women, families, speaking into their lives and inspiring and encouraging, others. So if anyone, is interested in doing that work, they can get in touch with us. And then also with the play, I'm always looking for actors and actresses. So that's another avenue that you might be able to step into.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, it has been a joy. This won't be the last time that you're on this platform. And I want to say this to the audience. There are several of you out there who probably need the spotlight shine on you. The thought was to do it for Black History Month, but as I'm putting this thing together behind the scenes, I think I'm realizing that the spotlight in Black excellence, it ought to reach way beyond these 28 days in February. There are some things happening in our nation right now where a lot of folks need to know that there are more than just a few little spots of excellence in our community. And so, if you have an interesting story, if you think that you can come here and sit with me just like Elaine did and tell your story, well, then I welcome you. If you want to get in contact with me, you can email me at carlsconversations@gmail.com. Once again, that is carlsconversations@gmail.com. Or you can go to the Carl's Conversations Facebook page and you can hit me up on Messenger like that. I would say the best way is probably by email, but if Messenger is the way you got to do it, you do what you got to do. I would love to hear from you. If you have an interesting story, even if it's not fit for this particular series on the Spotlight of Black Excellence, there are other places we can put it in the Carl's Conversations vehicle. All right. I want to hear from you. You are the reason why we do this. And listen, if you're seeing this and you know somebody who's operating in Black excellence and you know that they need their story told, send them a copy of this interview and tell them they need to contact me ASAP. That means as soon as possible. And the street vernacular, immediately.
Carl, and I should have said in terms of other contact, Facebook, Instagram, we can be found at Yet Stand Inc. on those platforms, and TikTok as well. And our email is yetstand@gmail.com.
That's right. Y'all hear that? So you can find Yet Stand Inc. on all those social media platforms. I know I've run into her on TikTok and on Instagram and Facebook. So make sure you go there, like, follow, and share. Tell somebody about it. This interview has been running live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as will all of these in this interview series. Remember, this is the interview series where we're showcasing Black excellence. And if you think that you fit that bill, come on, hit me up, carlsconversations@gmail.com. And I'm going to get back with you now. And we're going to schedule something and we'll do it. Elaine, thank you so much. And I want to thank you, all of your audience members. There were several of you who had your thumbs busy. Y'all were letting folks know we were on. and I really do appreciate it. For those of you who are in our live audience, we appreciate you. And also those of you who are going to see this on the playback, wherever you see it, make sure you go to the Carl's Conversations YouTube channel and to the Facebook page. Like, subscribe, follow. Also, you can catch us on TikTok. Come on, help us out. All right. Until next time. And I'll be making some announcements very soon. We got some more interviews coming. I hope and pray that you like what we're offering to you. Until then, we'll see you. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye-bye for now.
Good night. Thank you, Carl.